Hi, my name's Leanne Bridges, and I'm wondering if you're feeling like I am, not enough. My sister Tiffany Moffat has begun a movement for women and about their bodies and not feeling enough in their own bodies, that they need to be thinner and sexier or prettier or whatever. And recently I've had headaches over the last several days, and I looked up with Louise Hay's kind of the symbolism in headaches. This is something that I really believe in, that everything that we manifest in our bodies is a reflection of our inner conflict or challenges or something that's maybe not aligned. So when I looked up that and saw that headaches equals self-criticism, I was quite surprised. I didn't think of myself as someone who criticizes myself a lot internally. And I realized I hadn't been listening to my inner dialogue very well. My good friend Betty Healy and her husband Jim often talk about calming your inner critic and supporting your inner coach. And that's something that I realized if I just looked at the last 24 hours of my life, and that's what I did. I sat down and did a journal and said, what are the inner critic? What's the voice that has come out for me? And I realized it had been really a lot. It started with the night before. A friend of mine told me she couldn't come to an event that I was running because she was going to stay at home with her child to help her child through midterms, which were coming up. And I realized with a pang of guilt that my son also has midterms and that I was going to be out the night and not at home with him, helping him with his midterms. And the next day I realized that I was out, had a whole bunch of to-do lists, and I went out and I came across a friend of mine who seemed to really need my help. She was somebody who gives a lot to so many people and doesn't have a lot of people to talk about and was really struggling with something. I sat down in her office for almost an hour, and a lot of the time I kept saying to myself, you're so busy, you can't do this, you got to get to your work. And I realized that that was my work, actually. And then I went home, and on my way home, I was on the phone and with my son's karate instructor, and we were talking about the life lessons that she's imparting with him. And the whole time I was talking, I was worried about having to get home and do my work. And yet I realized that that is part of my work as well as a parent. And when I got home, I started working on a client's business, doing copywriting. And in that time, I started, as much as I was enjoying it, I was thinking about how I have to do copywriting for another client and how I should be actually writing my book, and how come I'm not writing my book, and how come I'm not writing my blogs. I should be doing that more often. I should be posting more often. I think you get the feeling of it. And then when I went to bed at night, I tried to do a list of kind of a summary of the day, and I realized all the to-do lists, things on my to-do list that I didn't get done. And then so I realized that inner critic was saying over and over and over all day long, I wasn't good enough. I had missed the PTA meeting in order to stay home with my children. I did a work event and didn't stay home with my children. I couldn't do it right. I either was spending too much time working or I was spending too much time with my kids. I wasn't having enough fun. I was getting mad at myself for not being enough. And even realizing that, so I started to think about, where does all this come from? My parents were not like that. They were really calm and they lived very much in the moment. And I think, started to realize that part of it was being a single mom and maybe even to some extent a widow. But more importantly, a lot of my society, which seems to be revving up so much today, being even on a spiritual journey, there seems to be this desire for more and more. And even the idea of desire, a lot of spiritual gurus and so forth will say desire is a bad thing. Well, I believe that our desire is a flame to continue to evolve and grow and expand. But like any flame, it can get out of control and it can consume you. And I started to feel that that's what was happening to me, that I was being consumed with my desire to grow, to evolve, to teach, to help others, to be the best that I could be. But it was starting to consume me. I couldn't do everything. I certainly couldn't do everything on my to-do list. And when I was doing one thing, I was worried about not doing the opposite. I don't know if you feel the same way, but I sense that our world is starting to feel more and more that way. So even though I'm doing work that I love and with the complete freedom to do it the way I want, I still have that inner stress of not being enough, not doing enough. So I've started to think about how can I counter that. And I started writing about what I was feeling, all the areas that I wasn't enough. And then I started to counter it with more positive affirmations around what I was doing enough. So, for example, I was, just to take for a second, that feeling that I wasn't enough for my boys. I wrote down, see, I'm even getting teary. Just the thought of that is really very emotional. I'm spending deep quality time with my boys and offering them unlimited support. I'm showing them the importance of self-care as I'm doing it for myself through my meditation and my practices of walking in the woods. Through my actions and helping them to develop into independent young men. When I started thinking about my work and how sometimes I'm worried that if I'm working with one client and I'm not working with the other, if I'm working, I'm not building my business with potential new clients, or when I'm working on business development and I'm not working with my clients, or I'm not making enough money from one client versus another. Yeah, it can go on and on. I said to myself, and I wrote down, my work is not linear. It is what enters it is what is ever present in my life. What is in front of me, whether it's collecting people in community, talking with a friend who happens to be in front of me, or helping a poor entrepreneur who maybe doesn't have a lot of money, but to help them off their feet and get off the ground. That is the work that will come around. That work will come around tenfold for me in abundance, because they all represent different aspects of myself and my gifts. So you get that idea. It's by looking at from an opposite side, where I'm feeling not enough, is talking to myself about what is enough. And then today I woke up and I saw my sister's campaign about being enough, and I thought that's a really, really good mantra for me. Every time that idea comes into my mind, one is to be present and to feel it and to see it coming in and creeping in, and to say all day to myself, I am enough. I am enough. This is enough. Enough, Leanne. Enough. And then I guess, it just to kind of close, I started to realize as I'm doing this video, I wanted to share this idea because possibly other people are feeling the same way. But right away, the ideas of not enough. I think, well, I could, do my hair better, do my makeup better, have a better scenario, better lighting. How am I going to promote it? Am I going to put it on YouTube? Am I going to do it on my website? Am I going to do social media? Am I going to get that reach out? The marketing not enough starts to kick in. And I started to realize again, kick in that mantra, I am enough. This is enough. Just to get this message out and raw that may touch one person, that may affect one other person that's feeling the same way I am. That I am enough. Tell me, are you feeling the same way? And what are you doing to help yourself to feel enough? Thank you for sharing, and thank you for listening. Namaste.